On August 4th, 2024, we've got a powerful new moon in Leo that really sets the stage for the rest of August. This happens at 7:14 a.m. Eastern US time, so calculate that for your own time zone, but it's kind of an action-packed 24 hours. So the new moon itself occurs at 12 degrees 34 minutes of Leo. So that's like 1, 2, 3, 4, let's go. And it really does kind of play out that way. 15 hours later, Venus moves into Virgo. So at the time of the new moon in Leo, the love goddess is at 29 degrees of Leo. That's going to be important later on, so keep that in mind. But also, Mercury stations retrograde later on August 4th or the 5th, depending on your time zone. So we've got not just this new moon in Leo and Venus changing signs, but we've also got the start of a really important Mercury retrograde period. So there's a lot to cover today. I am going to be talking about the Sabian symbols because that's kind of like the secret decoder ring to what's really going on behind the scenes. And if you look back at the Capricorn Full Moon video that I made for July 21st, and you read those Sabian symbols and the little objects that were involved, like Requiem and Cassandra, you can see just how literally some of these things are playing out. So I'm going to get a little nerdy in this one, but I think it really has some encouraging information for what could be just an action-packed month. So we're going to start with the Sabian symbol for this new moon in Leo, and that is an old sea captain rocking himself on the porch of his cottage. So old sea captain kind of in retirement, rocking on the porch. We've had a lot of old men in the news lately, so who knows if we'll see some retirements there. But also in your own life, you want to look at what kinds of accomplishments, what kinds of accolades that you have received in the past, right? Leo likes the praise, the spotlight, the accolades. Which of these things is it time to retire because you're ready to move on to something else? Leo always asks us to really tap into our heart, our passion, allow ourselves to shine like the sun. I've got my little sunstone pendant on here. So just this chance to really be your truest self, which may involve shining, but may also involve something new for you, like the end of the road for one thing and something new coming into being. So hold that thought, because we're also going to talk now about Mercury stationing retrograde. And so Mercury stations retrograde on August 4th or 5th. We're going to be feeling those kind of wonky station energies anyway. The whole day is on the 4th and the 5th because whenever a planet stations either direct or retrograde, it magnifies the impact of that planet. And so Mercury involving information exchange. I know I've been having a lot of weird, wacky email situations and phone situations, and some of you have also shared that you have too. That's been happening even before Mercury has gone retrograde. So just a heads up, we may see more of these kind of hacks or like the CrowdStrike situation or things like that. Make sure you back up your computer, anything important before August 4th, just in case. So just a heads up there. But the Sabian symbol for where Mercury stations retrograde is a man becoming aware of nature spirits and normally unseen spiritual agencies. And so this kind of sets the stage where it's not just the mental process that we're going through during this Mercury retrograde. There's some kind of spiritual information and transformation that is also likely to occur. And Venus, I mentioned, moving from 29 degrees of Leo into Virgo just 15 hours after this new moon. That's important because she's kind of linked to this particular Mercury retrograde period. So even though Mercury is the one going retrograde, Venus gets highlighted. She enters Virgo the same day that Mercury stations retrograde, and then she finishes up with Virgo and enters Libra the day after Mercury stations direct. So Mercury is going to be retrograde from August 4th until August 28th, and then on August 29th, Venus moves into one of her home signs. So Venus is not thrilled with being in Virgo. Sometimes that's considered, her fall. It's more of a critical look at relationships. So last year we had Venus retrograde in Leo. No Venus retrograde this year, but Venus is going to be in critical Virgo, a sign that Mercury rules, right? Mercury rules both Virgo and Gemini. And in Virgo, Mercury is the most analytical. And so while Mercury is moving retrograde, we get Venus in Virgo kind of looking at the pros and cons of all the relationships, but also of personal values, of how do relationships affect your self-esteem? How do they make you feel about yourself? What are our values as individuals, and how does that play out with what we're seeing out there in kind of the collective craziness that is presenting really for the rest of this year? So it's a time to look at and analyze how these things are playing out. The point where Mercury stations direct is at 21 degrees Leo, but we always round up for Sabian symbols, and that Sabian symbol is a carrier pigeon fulfilling its mission. And then Dane Rudyard adds a keynote, spirituality in terms of training for service to mankind. I love this one. In contrast with the intoxicated chicken, we now have the successfully trained carrier pigeon delivering the message it was its function to carry. This refers to spiritual energies which are being used constructively and which bring to the consciousness messages from other realms. Individual realizations acquire their true meaning only as they fulfill a collective function. The release of higher energies becomes effective and valuable to the extent to which it serves a higher but concrete and definite purpose. This is the ideal of the world server. So that was a lot, but again, we got this kind of spiritual component to it, and this assurance that, the message is delivered. So Mercury is the messenger, and a carrier pigeon is also a messenger. And with the Sabian symbol at the end of Mercury retrograde, that carrier pigeon, or Mercury, the retrograde messenger, will have delivered the message, will have helped that message to see the light of day in Leo, ruled by the sun. So, I find that encouraging. Now, in the midst of this Mercury retrograde period, we will have a very important conjunction in Gemini, another sign that Mercury rules. And this is Mars conjunct Jupiter in Gemini. Now, that one occurs at another important degree. It's the same degree that we had the Gemini new moon in. And this Sabian symbol is the head of a robust youth changes into that of a mature thinker. And so we've got these kind of interesting energies happening, right? Information, some sort of inner spiritual process that is occurring simultaneously to Venus in Virgo going, what do I think about my values? What do I think about my relationships? What are the pros and cons? What's happening here? And then in the midst of all of this, we've been having the Perseid meteor shower. So that's been happening really since mid-July, but it peaks on August 12th. So If you have clear skies the morning of August 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, in the Northern Hemisphere, that's kind of like the best viewing, supposedly, for these. But meteor showers always remind me of the Eight of Wands card, especially from the Robin Wood deck, which is what this one is. You can see a little more, there's planets and there's these wands coming down like the meteors. And this is the wild card of the tarot deck. It's kind of like, oh, didn't see that one coming, but you can feel that there's something lurking in the background. You can feel that some kind of change is about to take place. Given that the Perseid meteor shower is taking place, it's peaking right before Mars conjuncts Jupiter in Gemini, and keeping in mind that Mars tends to act early, we could see that play out as some kind of like really unexpected information shows up. Now, this could be personal information, this could be collective information, but whatever kind of information it is, based on that Sabian symbol, it's likely to cause kind of like an overnight reassessment, a maturation process of maybe someone that was a little more hot-headed or thought that they knew all of the details, but all of a sudden it's like, whoa, that was an Eight of Wands game changer. So this is all happening in August, and I'm not even going to get into the full moon in Aquarius in this video, but that one comes on August 19th and conjuncts the US natal moon. So we've got a lot of energies all playing out. They all seem to be indicating this interior spiritual process, and then this analysis, and then sudden information that maybe puts everything else into place. Jupiter is bigger picture, Gemini information. Again, Gemini is going to be kind of extra amplified at this time because of the Mercury retrograde period, where we are asked to review details, review all of the things that we thought we knew, and, if you don't like it, maybe switch, right? Change things up. And so I didn't mention yet that also on August 14th, the date of the exact conjunction of Mars and Jupiter in Gemini, the sign of information, that's also the same day that Mercury re-enters Leo, so hits that 29-degree Leo point that Venus is in when Mercury stations retrograde in Virgo. So that point, if you've got anything in the very late degrees of fixed signs or the very early degrees of mutable signs, you're getting pinged all over the place in August. So keep that one in mind. But again, Gemini, it's information, but it's also like, let's make a deal. Let's have a different perspective. Let's change things up. And so even though this retrograde is occurring in Virgo and Leo, the information blast is occurring in Gemini. And the other thing that's happening, and this happens every year, but it's kind of like more important this year because 2024 is an 8-year, is on August 8th, we've got the 8-8 Lionsgate. And that is when the sun aligns with the fixed star Sirius, also known as the dog star. That's where we get the dog days of August. But this year, it's 888 Lionsgate. And historically, in ancient Egypt, that alignment between the sun and Sirius, it kind of coincided with the annual flooding of the Nile. And that's what allowed for the tremendous fertility in that region. And so if you kind of look at all of the things I've been sharing here about this spiritual process, this kind of information blast or download, kind of the wild card energy, but also this idea of the flooding of the Nile and having just that Nile River Valley fertility, we're also kind of getting this regeneration energy potential for August, but it all starts with that August 4th new moon in Leo. So Hopefully this kind of helps to set the stage. I will be making a video on the full moon in Aquarius coming up, but also Timothy, Glenn, and I are going to make another video about September 1st and the big events that happen that day and what we can look at for September, October, November. So those are coming up. Watch for those. But yeah, lots of literal things with the Sabian symbols this time. And we'll see how that all plays out. In the meantime, step into kind of that joyful, childlike exuberance of Leo, because while there is a lot of change coming, there is this kind of seemingly cosmic promise that there will be a spiritual awakening both personally and collectively, and that all of the nuttiness that we're seeing in our world right now, maybe there is a higher order bringing things into alignment. And so I wish you all the very best, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.